Good morning, scholars, and happy Tuesday, or happy Tuesday, as you know, Miss Metz calls it if you're in Clemson. Tuesday just means that you can choose to make today a great day. You can make great choices throughout the day. And one of those great choices that you've already made was clicking onto this video to do your writing lesson. So great job to you. Yesterday, we had our first lesson on adjectives and adverbs. Now, Ms. Metz looked at some of the work from yesterday, which was writing a paragraph but using adjectives and adverbs in the paragraph. And based on what I saw that we still need some work on using adjectives and adverbs. So we're going to take a step back today, which is okay. And we're going to revisit this idea of what an adjective is, what an adverb is, and how we use them in sentences. Our activity for today is going to be a little bit simpler. We're going to just be identifying the noun or the verb that is being described in the sentence, and then we're going to be choosing the correct adjective or adverb in the sentence, and we're going to be actually writing that in. So let's look at yesterday. When we talked about adjectives and adverbs, we said adjectives are words used to describe people, places, and things in detail. Now, today Ms. Metz isn't going to say people, places, and things, but I am going to use the word noun. Words used to describe nouns in details. Now, same thing, nouns are people, places, or things. We had this example from yesterday. The dog ran down the hill. The dog, we can underline or highlight. I'm going to underline. Down the hill, hill is the second noun here. So the fluffy brown dog, there we've described the dog. These are adjectives. Fluffy is an adjective, brown is an adjective. Ran down the steep hill. Again, I'm underlining, and notice where my mouse is right now. I'm clicking the U. That U stands for underline. I called this hill steep. My adjective for the noun hill is steep. When we talk about adverbs, like adjectives, these are words used to tell how something is done. Ms. Metz is going to say today that these are words used to describe verbs in detail. So those action words like ran, walk, climb, jump, we're going to describe those in detail. So in the sentence, the dog ran down the hill, ran is actually the verb here. So I'm going to underline ran, not dog. Dog is a noun, but ran. How he ran, I'm going to use an adverb to tell. The dog ran quickly. Remember yesterday we talked about this ly ending, how adverbs have ly endings. Most adverbs have ly endings. If we were to take that away, then that's just an adjective. But to make it an adverb, we add that ly ending. That was just a quick review of what we covered yesterday. And today, you're going to need your composition book and a pencil to follow along with our lesson. Your directions are to rewrite the sentence using adjectives to expand and create strong second grade sentences, just like we did yesterday. But Ms. Metz is adding some scaffolds. That means I'm going to make it a little bit easier for us to follow along. We're going to underline or highlight the noun being described, and then we're going to fill in the blank. So our first step is to identify the noun that's being described. We can underline. Remember, I can click that U button in Google Docs to underline, or I can highlight where I'm selecting, I'm clicking and dragging the word, and then I'm clicking this highlight color button, and then you can do whatever color you want. I like to just do yellow, classic yellow. Let's look at our first example. Go ahead and write this down in your composition book. The sentence says, Juan told his classmates a blank joke. Is Juan being described in this sentence? No, Juan is not being described in this sentence. But the noun that is being described in this sentence is joke. So we are going to underline or highlight the noun joke. Now, let's think about some words that we could use to describe a joke. Well, telling a joke is usually funny. So could we say that this joke is funny? Yes, we can say that this joke is funny. Juan told his classmates a funny joke. Funny is an adjective. That word is used to describe the noun joke. You could also use an adjective like silly. He told his classmates a silly joke. And even if it wasn't a very good joke, we could say Juan told his classmates a bad joke. That wasn't funny. But we are going to stick with either funny or silly. Go ahead and complete that sentence using the adjective either funny or silly. Awesome. Let's move to our next example. Go ahead and write this down in your composition book. I brought my teacher a blank apple. Now, let's find that noun that's being described here. Is teacher being described here? Are we describing the teacher? No. In this sentence, we are actually describing the apple. So we can highlight or underline apple. Now, let's think about an adjective that can be used to describe apple, the noun apple. What are apples usually? Well, remember colors can be adjectives. So maybe it's a red apple or a green apple or a pink apple. We can also talk about the taste of the apple, a delicious apple, a tasty apple. We could also say something like juicy or crisp. There's so many adjectives that we can use to describe apple. You can pick one that you like that could describe apple. I'm going to say, I brought my teacher a red apple. I'm going to use color. Once you're done with that one, we can move on to our next example. This sentence says, there were blank squirrels in the yard. So what is the noun being described here? Is it yard? Are we talking about what the yard looks like? No. We're actually talking about the squirrels here. There were yellow squirrels in the yard. I remember from our video yesterday that we can talk about the number of squirrels, and that number, or talking about the amount of something, can actually be an adjective. So we could say there were many squirrels in the yard. If there were like 5 squirrels in the yard, we could say there were 5 squirrels in the yard. We can say there were multiple squirrels in the yard. We can use different adjectives that describe the amount of squirrels. So Ms. Metz is going to say many. There were many squirrels in the yard. You could say there were a lot of squirrels in the yard. We're going to move to our next example here. This sentence says, a bald eagle was taking care of blank eggs in her nest. Wow, there's a lot of nouns in here, but I noticed that the noun that we are describing is eggs. So I'm going to highlight eggs. And we're describing, again, like the squirrels, maybe the amount of eggs. We could also talk about maybe the color of the eggs. We could even talk about how delicate the eggs are. So there's many different adjectives we could use here. A bald eagle was taking care of, I'm going to use a number here. I'm going to say that there were 10 eggs. A bald eagle was taking care of 10 eggs in her nest. Now, you don't have to use a number here. You could have said something like delicate. That means easy to break, or fragile. Fragile eggs in her nest. She's taking care of them. She doesn't want anything to happen to them. Maybe they're fragile. So you can go ahead and fill in that sentence with whatever adjective you want to use to describe eggs. And we're going to move on now to adverbs. So we just did a lot of work with nouns and adjectives. Now we're going to switch our brains over to verbs and adverbs. So our directions are the same, but we are rewriting the sentence using adverbs to expand and create strong second grade sentences. We're going to underline or highlight the verb being described. So in our first example here, it says the children blank walked down the hallway for lunch. What is the verb being described here? because we are not describing the children. That's a noun. We're actually describing how they walked. I'm going to underline my verbs here just to show you how to underline. Underline. How can we describe walking? What are some different ways that we can walk? Well, we can walk quickly to lunch if we're running late, like Clemson always was running late to lunch, always every day. We could be walking slowly to lunch if we're trying to be quiet and calm with our bodies, which Clemson was not usually, but we were working on it. So I'm going to say for this example, the children slowly walked down the hallway for lunch. Look at how I use that ly ending, because if I didn't, that sentence is not correct. I'm using an adjective to describe a verb. The children slow walked down the hallway for lunch. No, we need that ly ending. Slowly walk down the hallway for lunch. We could also say an adverb like quietly. They quietly walked. We could say they calmly walked. I like that one. The children calmly walked down the hallway for lunch. Once you've completed that sentence, you can move on with me. He blank called out the answer. Now, if I were still in first grade, I could just say he called out the answer. But we're in second grade now, and we're making really strong second grade sentences that describe things in detail. So we're going to describe how he called out the answer. He's calling it out. Well, when someone's calling out an answer, they're usually not doing it quietly. How are they doing it? Usually very loudly. He loudly called out the answer. And then Ms. Metz would be very frustrated. Loudly called out the answer. We could say he proudly, if he really knew the answer was correct, he proudly called out the answer, or he bravely called out the answer if he was being really bold and brave and shouting it out. Whichever adverb you'd like to use to describe that verb called out. Okay, next one. Keanu blank hid behind the tree. We're not describing Keanu here, but we are describing how he hid. Now, when you're playing hide and go seek, you're probably not being loud and crazy with your body because you don't want to be found. You're probably doing it very quietly, or you're doing it very calmly, just like walking down the hallway. So for this one, I know in hide and seek, we are not making any sounds, right? So Ms. Metz can think of the adverb quiet. Remember how important that ly ending is? If I didn't have that, Keanu quiet hid behind the tree is incorrect. We need that ly ending to make this an adverb. Keanu quietly hid behind the tree. Okay. Our last example to write down in your composition book says Amy blank checked under her bed in the dark. So we're describing how Amy checked under her bed. That means like she looked really quickly. Maybe she heard a noise and it scared her and she just wanted to quickly look under her bed. Now, that sounds pretty scary because if it's dark, it's usually scary. And under the bed can sometimes be scary. So if she's looking under the bed, she's probably acting very bold or brave. So Ms. Metz is going to use that word brave. But I'm not describing Amy, so I'm not using an adjective. I need that ly ending. Amy bravely checked under her bed in the dark. How did she check? She checked bravely. All right, friends, those are our examples for today. I'm going to show you your independent work for today in your own Google Docs. You're going to be rewriting the sentences using adjectives or adverbs to expand and create strong second grade sentences. You're going to underline or highlight the noun or verb that is being described. Just like we did in our work over here, underlining or highlighting the noun or the verb that is being described. Then you're going to choose from the following words to complete the sentences. So don't worry, Ms. Metz helped you out a little bit. I gave you a word bank. These are all the words that are going to be used in the following sentences. It's your job to figure out which word works best in which sentence. So you're underlining or highlighting the noun or verb, and you're filling in the blank with one of the words, one of the adjectives or adverbs from the word bank. Hopefully today's lesson goes better. I expect to see lots of 100% today. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great time learning. I'll see you guys tomorrow for a new topic. Bye, everyone.